It's December 9th, 1995. I'm 29 years old, and I just gave birth for the first time. I named her Rehteah, a name I had come up with when I was just 13 years old. Rehteah, or Ray as I often called her, soon became my driving force that I was missing. And being a first-time mom, I was full of emotion and I was overwhelmed. But soon I realized that she was going to be the catalyst for profound change in my life. And during those first few weeks, holding her, a deeper perspective came through my consciousness. Because up until that point, I only had to look out for me and all my life's decisions. And it was okay to disappoint myself. It was something that I was familiar with. But now I had this little baby looking to me for her every need. And I was in love like I'd never been before. And I was terrified. I knew that looking at her, I was looking at me, and that being female is complex. Being a high school dropout, I also knew that my late nights and lifestyle of bartending were over, and that education was in my future. And I dove in. I wrote my high school equivalency exams. I earned a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in counseling before Rehteah was 7 years old. She was my driving force. I believe we could achieve so much together, and we were. And what emerged at this point was a struggle between empowerment and fear, because being female is complex. It's 1973. I'm 7 years old. I'm lying in bed, and I can hear laughter bellowing from the living room downstairs. My family has company. And next, I hear my uncle say, "I'm going to the washroom." And his larger-than-life, heavy footsteps ascending on that stairwell, and my heart beating with every step he took. And I quickly took those blankets, and I tucked them around my ankles, and I tucked them all the way up my body, up into my neck, snug as a bug, like my dad used to do every night. And I prayed that I would be safe. But I was not safe. That's the one and only memory I have of my uncle's abuse, yet I knew he was coming for me. But I didn't tell a soul, because who would believe me anyway? So I tucked it away. I tucked it far, far away in the formation of my already cracked soul. It's 1981. I'm 14 years old, and I like being me. I'm the youngest of 7 children, and with that position came a certain amount of freedom. A freedom to express, a freedom to create, a freedom to explore who I wanted to be in this world, and I was fearless in many ways. And that summer, the end of the school year, I came home and I packed to go away for the summer, like I did every year, leaving the city life behind. But in September, when I came home a completely different person. I came home a shell of a person, but nobody noticed. That summer, a male, just 2 years older than me, asked me to go to a party. and I was thrilled because I secretly had a crush on him. That night, I was raped. I was raped, and I ran from a home full of people, naked and clutching my clothes in front of me, and I ran, and I ran, and I ran. And to this day, I don't think he believes what he did to me was rape, because as I ran from that home that night, I could hear his voice echoing, "Why did you bite me?" I bit him to get away. A few days later, I saw him, and I spoke to him. Imagine. I think I even contemplated going on another date with him, because my traumatized teen brain could not comprehend what just happened to me. And being female is complex. No one ever had a conversation with me about consent. Yet I intuitively blamed myself. Why? Because I reciprocated his kiss? Because I shouldn't have been there in the first place? But pretty soon, my soul was crushed, and I didn't care about myself anymore, and I just wanted to be numb all the time. So I became a troubled teen, a very troubled teen. It's 1985. I'm 19 years old, and I decided to leave my life behind and start new. So I moved to Florida, and I quickly had to learn how to survive. I became a waitress, and I excelled. I took a bartending course, and again, I excelled. And what this time in my life was full of alcohol abuse and late nights and that self-fulfilling prophecy of being a complete and utter failure spun round and around. But during this time, I was also picking up shreds of resiliency and strength that I didn't even know were there. In 1993, I'm 27 years old. I returned home. And what being female meant to me in those Florida years of bartending was that I could make a lot of money for what I looked like and what my body looked like. And I worked hard too. But being female is complex. And when I came home, 27 years old, I took a long, hard look of my patterns. I looked at my rape, my beliefs around my rape, and I realized it wasn't my fault. And for the first time in many, many years, I found strength, I found peace, and I found direction in my life. 2 years later, Rehteah was born. Rehteah was cautious. She was sensitive. She was compassionate. She had more empathy in her baby finger than most adults do by the time she was 4 years old. And I worried. I admired those traits in her, but I worried that she wasn't tough enough for this world. But then I also witnessed her strong-headedness, her strong will, her love of learning, and her determination. And I knew that those qualities, coupled with her compassion, were the exact qualities that were going to take her far in life. And I had all the conversations with Rehteah starting at a very young age of what it means to be female, what it means to stay safe. And as she entered those adolescent years, we had all the conversations about consent. And she was cautious, and she was her head on straight. And I felt safe. Rehteah was 15 years old. It's November 2011. She just started high school. She met some new friends. And one of her new friends had asked her to go to a sleepover. And I said yes. That night, her and her new friend went to a home where two brothers lived. Alcohol was introduced. Two other males stopped by later on. So you have 4 males, 2 females. Rehteah became very intoxicated. And sometimes when I say this part, people say, well, I thought you said she was cautious. And obviously, if Rehteah didn't feel safe in that environment with her peers, she wouldn't have been there. Rehteah was left behind, 4 males and her, and she was raped that night. And a photo was taken of her rape. And that photo and that story showed up in her school before she ever had a chance to defend herself. She walked in, the story was already out there. Rehteah was now the slut. Rehteah now had a label. And anytime somebody has a label, their value certainly goes down. And 2 days later, I came home after the photo appeared to find my confident, vibrant child curled up in a fetal position on my kitchen floor, rocking herself and telling me that her life is over as she purged everything she could remember of a sleepover gone horribly wrong. And me, I'm holding the door frame so my knees don't buckle. My worst nightmare just came true. And every cell in my body rose up with anger and shock. Emotions around my own rape came to the surface. And here we are. Over 30 years later, Rehteah knew what happened to her was wrong. I kept my rape quiet. Rehteah knew. We went to the authorities. She knew what happened to her was wrong, but society blamed her. Her peer group blamed her. And remember, I felt safe. But being female is complex. Because Rehteah was never safe, and neither is anybody, unless we have these important conversations with both the females and the males in our life. And we have to continually ask ourselves and question ourselves, why is it that everyone focused on Rehteah's behavior and not the male's behavior? Why is it they asked, why was she drinking, and not why the males would take that picture and share it? And these are the questions we have to continually ask ourselves, because we live in a rape culture and slut shaming. And that's not new. The names are new. We have names for it now, but that's always been around. It's April 4th, 2013, when my life takes yet another traumatic turn. I'm laying in bed, about to fall asleep, when Rehteah, acting in a moment of anger and rage, triggered by her trauma, hanged herself. April 7th, 2013, she died. She was just 17 years old. My life changed dramatically the day she was born and the day she died. It's 2016, and every single one of us knows someone who's been affected by sexualized violence. yet it's still pervasive on every level of society. And how do we change that? How do we change and challenge our beliefs? I've been speaking out for 3 years now. I speak out in communities, at conferences. I speak to police and youth and frontline workers because I know that we change our dialogue, we affect behavior. And I know that we can make a difference. And I get feedback. Just 2 nights ago, I went to the mailbox, and in it was over 60 letters from a junior high school telling me how Rehteah's story affected their life and what they're going to do about it. I want to make safer communities, and that includes for males and for females. So I'm asking you to change your own beliefs and your own perspectives. I was able to change my perspectives about my rape, and I'm able to help others change their perspective by telling them that we believe them and we're here to support you. And we have to take that layers and we have to undo all the layers, and we have to go back pretty far. We have to go back to Susie on the playground and stop telling her that Johnny pushes her down because he likes her. We have to stop telling little girls that their beauty and what they're worth is what they look like. To go inside. We have to stop objectifying women as if they're sports cars. Because I know 100% of my heart, if Rehteah was seen as a human being that night and not an object to be conquered, that I wouldn't be standing here right now. And people often ask me, what does justice look like for Rehteah? Or will there ever be justice? Justice is complex. But justice, for me, is every single one of you leaving here today with a slightly different perspective and having these important conversations with both the males and the females in our life. Because being female is complex. Thank you.